Growing up, I always felt like the background character in my own family. My parents adored my sister Emily, as if she were the sun around which we all revolved. She was the golden child, the one who could do no wrong. Every mistake she made was brushed aside as youthful curiosity, while every small stumble I had was met with disappointment and lectures. Still, I didn't let that stop me. If Emily was the star, I was determined to be the one who built my own light. From the time I was 12, I had my eyes set on college. Not just any college, but a good one that would pull me out of the shadow I'd grown up under. I loved the idea of studying late in libraries, debating with professors, walking across a campus with books stacked in my arms. To me, education wasn't just about classes. It was freedom, so I worked. I worked harder than anyone I knew. While Emily was out shopping with Mom or going to parties, I was at my desk, poring over textbooks, practicing essays, solving math problems. My teachers noticed. They praised my grades, encouraged me to aim high, even whispered that scholarships would come my way if I stayed on this path. Their belief in me was the fuel I needed, because at home, I wasn't getting it. At the dinner table, conversations always circled back to Emily, her cheerleading competitions, her latest crush, her new clothes. I'd sit quietly, fork in hand, waiting for someone to ask about the science fair I'd just won or the essay contest where I'd taken first place. But the questions never came. Instead, I'd hear, "Pass the salt, honey," as though my accomplishments weren't even worth acknowledging. Yet, despite the unfairness, I held on to hope. I told myself that college would be different. My parents had opened a fund for me when I was little, and I clung to the idea that all those long nights of studying would pay off once I got there. I pictured moving into a dorm, decorating my own little space, and finally feeling like I belonged somewhere. I wasn't bitter, at least not yet. I still believed my hard work would speak louder than favoritism. In my heart, I thought one day my parents would look at me and finally see the child who never stopped trying. I thought they would be proud, maybe even apologize for overlooking me. At 16, I spent more nights in the library than in front of the TV. At 17, I was balancing AP classes, volunteer work, and part-time jobs to pad my college applications. My dreams weren't flashy like Emily's. I didn't want to be the center of attention. I just wanted independence, respect, and a shot at the future I knew I deserved. Little did I know. Everything I'd worked for, the fund I believed in, the future I'd built in my head, was already slipping away. The truth didn't come crashing down on me all at once. It slipped out in fragments, like little cracks forming in the foundation of the life I thought I had. I was a senior in high school, clutching acceptance letters in my hands like golden tickets. My dream school had accepted me. I remember running home, heart pounding, ready to tell my parents that everything I'd worked for was finally paying off. But instead of joy, I was met with awkward glances and forced smiles. "That's great, honey," my mom said, her voice just a little too flat. My dad patted my shoulder but didn't even look me in the eyes. Something was off. A week later, I overheard them in the kitchen. Emily had gotten into trouble again. This time, she'd maxed out a credit card. My mother's voice was hushed but frantic. "Don't worry, we'll just take a little more from the fund. She needs our help right now." My stomach dropped. "The fund? My fund?" That night, I confronted them. My hands were shaking, my acceptance letter still sitting on the table between us. "What fund were you talking about?" "You mean my college fund, don't you?" My father sighed like I was being dramatic. My mother's face tightened. "Sweetheart, you don't understand. Emily needed us. She's starting her life. You'll figure something out. You're resourceful." I felt my world tilt. "You spent my college money on her?" My voice cracked, anger bubbling up. "I worked for this. I planned my whole future around this. How could you—" Mom cut me off, her tone sharp. "Enough, don't be selfish. Emily deserves a chance to shine. She's getting married soon, and we couldn't just leave her stranded. You're smart. You'll get scholarships. It's not the end of the world. Not the end of the world." The words burned in my ears. To them, it was simple. One child mattered more than the other. Emily was the chosen one. I was the afterthought. Emily herself waltzed in mid-argument, her nails freshly manicured, her smile smug. She tossed her hair and said, Oh, don't be so dramatic. You'll land on your feet. You always do. Besides, it's not like you need money the way I do. People expect me to look good, you know? The casual cruelty of her words hit harder than any slap. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make them all feel the way I did, hollow, betrayed, invisible. But instead, I stood frozen, tears stinging my eyes. My dad muttered something about family sacrifices, but I didn't hear him. All I could hear was the shattering of my dream, the sound of doors closing before I even had a chance to walk through them. In that moment, I realized I was powerless. They had taken everything I'd trusted them to protect. And yet, beneath the grief and anger, something else began to stir. A quiet, smoldering flame. They thought they'd ended my future. They had no idea they'd just sparked my resolve. I had always believed hard work could overcome anything. Grades, dedication, late nights with bloodshot eyes, I thought those things would be enough. But when the tuition deadline came and I had nothing, reality crushed me harder than any exam ever could. My acceptance letter sat on my desk like a cruel reminder. Congratulations, you're in. Too bad you can't afford it. I tried everything. I met with the financial aid office, pleaded for more scholarships, begged for loans. But without parental backing or proof of funds, the options narrowed to nothing. One by one, the doors I had spent years unlocking slammed shut in my face. My dream school sent a final notice. Without payment, my place would be given to someone else. I remember staring at that email, my vision blurry from tears, feeling like the world was mocking me. At home, there was no comfort. When I told my parents, my mother sighed dramatically. Honey, sometimes dreams just don't work out. Be realistic. My father added, not everyone is cut out for those fancy schools. Maybe community college is better for you. His tone wasn't supportive. It was dismissive, almost smug, as though my failure confirmed what he had always suspected, that I wasn't enough. And Emily? She thrived on my misery. She paraded around the house, showing off the wedding dress my parents had bought with my fund. Don't pout, she teased one evening, twirling in front of the mirror. Not everyone gets to be special. I guess I was just meant for more. Her words sliced through me like glass. I wanted to scream, to tear that smug look off her face. But instead, I swallowed the rage until it burned in my chest. Days blurred together, each one heavier than the last. I'd catch my parents whispering about Emily's bright future while brushing past me like I was invisible. My report cards went unnoticed. My awards collected dust in the corner. It didn't matter what I did. Emily was always the star, and I was just the shadow they barely tolerated. The final straw came one evening at dinner. I had just gotten a rejection email from my last hope, a scholarship I had prayed for. My hands trembled as I pushed peas around my plate, trying not to cry. My father chuckled and said, "See, this is why we invested in Emily. She has real potential. You'll figure something out. Maybe a regular job is more your speed." Laughter followed. Emily's high-pitched giggle, my mother's soft chuckle. They laughed while my world collapsed. That was the moment something inside me broke, not in despair, but in clarity. If my parents thought I was worthless, if Emily thought I would always trail behind her, then fine. Let them think that. I wouldn't waste another tear begging for their approval. I sat there quietly, my jaw clenched, my heart pounding with a new rhythm. It wasn't hope anymore. It was resolve. If they think I'm worthless, I'll prove them wrong. After that dinner, I stopped expecting anything from my family. I realized begging for their support was like asking a stone to bleed. If I was going to have a future, it wouldn't be because they gave me one. It would be because I built it myself. So I started small. While Emily was busy shopping for honeymoon outfits, I picked up shifts at the local diner. At first, it was just a few hours after school, but soon I was working weekends, double shifts, anything they'd give me. I told my parents it was just to keep busy since I wasn't going off to college. They nodded, pleased that I seemed to be settling into my place. They had no idea that every tip I earned, every paycheck I cashed, was going straight into a savings account they didn't know existed. At night, while the house was quiet, I researched scholarships they'd never hear about. Not the obvious ones, Those required parental information. But the niche awards, the ones offered by small organizations, private donors, even online competitions. I wrote essay after essay, often by the dim light of my laptop, pouring my anger and ambition into every word. But money wasn't my only weapon. I needed independence. So I learned skills, anything that could make me useful outside their control. Freelancing gigs online, tutoring kids in the neighborhood, even reselling used textbooks. I built streams of income, tiny at first, but slowly, steadily growing. All the while, I played my part at home. I kept my head down, pretended to have given up. When my mother sighed about my lack of ambition, I just smiled faintly and went back to clearing the dishes. When Emily mocked me for working like a peasant, I shrugged, acting as though her words bounced right off. They thought I was defeated. They thought I'd accepted my role as the forgotten one. But underneath the surface, I was building something they couldn't see. An escape? The sweetest part? Emily and my parents unknowingly helped me. Emily would toss her old clothes or textbooks in the trash, and I'd quietly sell them online for extra cash. My parents asked me to run errands, and I'd use the time to meet with mentors and apply for programs. They thought I was wasting away in mediocrity. Meanwhile, I was sharpening every tool I had. There were nights I nearly broke. Nights when exhaustion from double shifts and endless applications left me staring at the ceiling, wondering if I was insane to think I could pull this off. But then I'd hear Emily's laughter down the hall or remember my father's words, "She has real potential. You'll figure something out." That sentence became my fuel. I would figure something out, but not in the way they imagined. I didn't know exactly how my plan would end, but I knew one thing. I wasn't just saving for college. I was saving for freedom. And when the moment came to reveal what I'd built, they would finally see the truth. The girl they dismissed, the daughter they overlooked, was going to outshine them all. The payoff came slowly, then all at once. After months of grinding shifts, sleepless nights, and applications, I opened an email that made me stop breathing. It was a full-ride scholarship, tuition, books, housing, everything, funded by a private foundation for first-generation students who showed resilience against adversity. Not only was I accepted into a respected university, but now I could attend without owing a single dime. For the first time in months, I cried, not out of despair but out of sheer relief. This was it. My way out. I waited until dinner to share the news. My parents and Emily were already halfway through a conversation about floral arrangements for her wedding when I walked in. I placed the scholarship letter on the table. "I got in," I said, my voice steady. "Full ride. I leave in the fall." The silence that followed was delicious. My mother blinked as if she hadn't heard me correctly. My father's fork froze halfway to his mouth. Emily's lips parted, her smile faltering. "You got a scholarship?" my dad finally asked. "Yes," I said, sliding into my chair. "All expenses covered. I don't need the fund." "I never needed you to believe in me," Emily scoffed, her voice sharp with disbelief. "That's impossible." "You? Full ride? No way." I leaned back, savoring her frustration. Turns out hard work pays off. Crazy, right? Their faces were priceless, a mix of confusion, shame, and something else. Fear. For the first time, they were realizing that I wasn't the dependent, powerless child they thought I was. I was free, but fate has a cruel sense of humor. Just weeks later, Emily's wedding plans began unraveling. Bills piled up, vendors demanded deposits, and suddenly the money wasn't stretching as far as my parents had hoped. Emily whined and panicked, my mother stressed over finances, my father snapped at everyone, and in the middle of it all, I packed my bags for college without lifting a finger to help. The final twist came the night before I left. My father cornered me in the kitchen, his voice lower than usual. "You know, with your scholarship money you'll have extra, right? Maybe you could help the family out. Just a little." I looked him straight in the eye and smiled. Funny, I thought Emily was the one with real potential. He flinched at his own words thrown back at him. My mother tried next, guilt-tripping me about family unity, but I simply told her the truth. Family isn't supposed to steal your future and call it love. When I finally left, suitcase in hand, I didn't look back. Emily's glare followed me to the door, and my parents stood in silence, realizing the child they'd dismissed was the one who had escaped, succeeded, and no longer needed them. Their arrogance crumbled that day, replaced by something they never expected to feel toward me: regret. And I carried that image with me like a trophy. College was everything I had imagined and more. For the first time in my life, I wasn't Emily's sibling or the family's afterthought. I was just me. Professors noticed my work ethic, classmates admired my determination, and I found myself surrounded by people who valued me for what I could do, not for how well I played the role of second best. Every lecture, every paper, every late night in the library felt like reclaiming a piece of myself that my family had tried to erase. Meanwhile, back home, the golden child's shine began to fade. Emily's marriage, the one my parents had sacrificed my future for, was already cracking. Debt piled up, her husband's patience wore thin, and the glamorous life she flaunted on social media quickly unraveled behind closed doors. My parents poured more money, more time, and more excuses into saving her, but it was never enough. The golden pedestal they'd built for her turned into quicksand, dragging them all down together. Occasionally, I'd get updates through relatives. My mother had taken on extra shifts. My father sold his prized collectibles to cover Emily's bills. Emily herself was back living at home, her perfect marriage in ruins. And through it all, none of them reached out to apologize. Maybe they were too proud, or maybe they still couldn't admit what they had done. But in truth, I didn't need their apology anymore. Because while they were stuck in the cycle of their own choices, I was thriving. I graduated at the top of my class, landed a job offer before I even walked the stage, and built a life that was entirely mine, independent, steady, and unshakable. Every success felt like quiet revenge. Not the kind where you watch someone fall apart, but the kind where you rise so high above them that they can't touch you anymore. Still, there were moments of reflection. I'd think back to that night when they laughed at me across the dinner table when my father told me Emily had real potential. The sting of those words had once been unbearable. But now they were nothing more than fuel I had already burned. If anything, they reminded me of how far I'd come, not in spite of them, but because I had chosen to break free from them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying the people who hurt you. It's proving them wrong by living the life they swore you could never have. It's walking across a graduation stage while they sit at home wondering where they went wrong. It's knowing that you built your future with your own two hands, while they wasted theirs protecting someone who never valued it. And as I stood on my own 2 feet, diploma in hand and a career ahead of me, I realized something powerful. I was never worthless. They just never had the eyes to see my worth. That was their mistake to live with, and my victory to savor forever.